Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the report of a group which aims to raise £25 million for Reform UK, seemingly in return for providing much of their legislative programme. The funding would come from not just the UK but the USA as well. So another case of Reform UK seeking foreign money in order to sell Britain out, as if Brexit didn't do enough damage, and this is a potentially very serious threat. The latest polling from Ipsos suggests Reform could win as many votes at the next election as Labour did in the last, and that of course led to a huge majority. It would appear that so far at least, British voters are not at all taking the breakdown of society and the economy in America as a cautionary tale. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So according to the Sunday Times, what is being described as a think tank called the Centre for a Better Britain, and seems to have come from the United States, wants to both help reform into government and then direct their policies. This should be taken very seriously. A group which is not really even based in Britain, it has a British headquarters, but the group comes from America, wants to effectively write our laws. And the pro-sovereignty crowd are supporting the party they've targeted. See, this group knows that despite the image Farage puts out, he is the political leader most willing to sell his own country out. Their American operation, according to the report, is designed to learn lessons from the MAGA movement, as well as get donations in order to boost Reform UK's political operations here. We've already seen Reform UK drawing on MAGA tactics. Zia Yusuf has been claiming lots of so-called wasteful spending by Kent County Council, which actually doesn't exist. The party's new MP, Sarah Potchin, has been making claims about crime in her constituency, which are not backed up by evidence either. Not that this is a new tactic, making things up which will be readily believed by your target voters, who are unlikely to see the reports debunking it, and even if they did, would choose not to believe it. I find it worrying that people aren't looking at Reform UK, who openly admit to wanting to copy Trumpism, looking at what Trumpism is actually doing in America, and not being much more cautious. But these voters clearly either do not know what's happening in America or think that the same behaviour somehow benefits them. But back to this group, the Centre for a Better Britain, which it's claimed is in direct contact with Nigel Farage and his head of policy. They are also said to be building relationships with Robert Jenrick. They want to get Reform and the Conservatives working together in some form in order to win power and install a British version of Project 2025. Project 2029 in our case, I guess, or maybe Project Moron would be a better name. The article even makes mention of the fact this sounds very like a Project 2025 operation. So how are we finding out about this? Well, the details of the project were apparently shared with potential donors last month, and I guess one of the recipients leaked it to the Sunday Times. The article showed some of the details of the document. It's explaining Reform UK's success to these potential donors. Given that Reform UK have never been close to power, I suppose it's necessary to present them as a serious prospect for government to elicit those donations. But another selling point to donors is the fact that although Reform UK is achieving electoral success, it doesn't have a policy platform. In other words, it doesn't have fixed policies on anything and would be very receptive to policy ideas if they came wrapped in a load of dollar bills. It does make some claims which are a little bit more dubious, giving polling data such as right-wing... They're suggesting that a right-wing coalition of Reform and the Tories looks likely for the next election. Quite sure that's what it's suggesting. But the aim of the document is to get the donations coming. So, again, they can make a few claims that don't have a lot of evidence. Now, let me set out the main areas of danger here. I don't even mean should Reform win the election with these people behind them. The danger there is obvious. American donors would be telling Reform what laws to pass, and Farage would duly oblige. The UK would be screwed way harder than with Brexit, and we would also cease to carry out some of the more useful roles we've been trying internationally. Support for Ukraine would end. There'd be no effort to find diplomatic solutions in the Middle East or anywhere else. We would literally become a vassal state of the United States. In fact, not even the United States, because it would depend who's in charge there, of MAGA, of whoever's head of MAGA. Now, for now, let us concentrate on the present dangers. How this group aims to install the Putin and Trump supporting Farage into Downing Street with a large enough majority to completely sink Britain. First, consider that Reform are where they are right now due to continuing and largely uncritical access to the public via the mainstream media. That's probably not going to end. They also have very large social media outlets promoting them heavily as well. Again, that's not likely to end. The far right outlets on social media do way better than any other political groups. And they have gathered a large amount of support amongst the British public without any serious strategy beyond not being the Conservatives or Labour. They've not announced any firm policies on anything, nor do they have much of a campaign operation of their own yet. So if money comes flooding in to professionalise the operation, Reform UK could actually become way more effective. I mean, you look at their polling as amateurs and you wonder, my goodness, what would it be like with a focused team of strategists and data scientists behind them? The risk of Elon Musk donating may have subsided, but Labour need to get a move on in tackling foreign money in politics very quickly all the same. In fact, it might even be more urgent now that Reform can claim to have already enough support to win a large majority. That would be very tempting for American donors. Labour proved last year you can win a massive majority with 34%. And one of the top pollsters is giving Reform UK 34% right now. Now, there are still challenges for Reform UK. It is still possible that they start to lose some of their grip in the next year or so. I've said many times before, the first year or so of this Labour government would be Reform UK's golden age, effectively. For example, Nigel Farage is very controlling of the party. Will there be friction between himself and his own growing number of councillors, with his own MPs, with this group? See, right now, he will be delighted with the promise of funding and free services. But if it starts to take over the party's operations as the move towards more professionalism of the campaign, will Farage start to feel like he's been sidelined a bit? Will he start to feel he's losing a bit of control and kick back? Remember, it's still not certain that Farage definitely wants to be in government. Another problem for Reform UK is that they are gaining a lot of support from not only the Tories' utter failure, but Labour's lack of success. Now, if Labour starts showing more signs of improvement as their major legislation becomes law and projects are being built, that could absolutely shift public attitudes. But we can't be complacent. Labour have challenges of their own. They've committed themselves to an economic strategy which delivers some short-term pain for some people in return for longer-term investment. What they've done is they've squeezed the day-to-day spending in order to extract more for that investment, that infrastructure investment. Now, they were probably imagining a relatively straightforward second election and major gains in the second parliament to help them in the third. If they are to face a major challenge early at the next election, that could be trouble. Yes, there will be some definite signs of improvement. It's not like all the improvements will be loaded up into the second parliament. The NHS will be much better. But although we should be in a much better place on housing, energy and transport, will it be advanced enough for key voters to notice in sufficient numbers before the next election? Then there's the global situation. Over the past few years, incumbent governments have suffered in elections due to the economic impacts of COVID, the war in Ukraine. Well, we have global problems right now as well. The war in Ukraine is still going on. We also have the threat of major instability in the Middle East. Trump is badly damaging global trade with his tariffs, and the societal breakdown in the USA will make the world's largest economy unreliable for the next few years at least. All of those factors are going to absolutely batter the crap out of an already fragile British economy, which had to deal with not only COVID and the war in Ukraine before, but the entirely unnecessary extreme Tory Brexit. Labour must absolutely prioritise individual people feeling better off by 2029, even if it comes at a cost to the economy more widely. And yet, they've adopted a strategy which prioritises long-term investment, which is the responsible thing for a government to do, but will be futile if they let the gates fall to the barbarians. There is nothing Labour can build which a Reform government cannot destroy in short order. And there is nothing a subsequent government can do to repair the damage a Reform government causes. It takes no time at all to destroy the building of something. It takes a very long time to rebuild something that's been shattered. And then there's the Conservatives themselves. A lot of support for Reform UK has come from the Conservatives. Successive Tory leaders trying to play by Farage's rules have actually boosted Reform into the position they are in now. So even if Labour turn around their image, that won't actually substantially reduce Reform support. That can only come from the Tories winning those votes back. But they are getting their strategy completely wrong. And if Jenrick does replace Badenoch, the Tories will become nothing more than a Reform UK mini-me. They're already most of the way there now. And Labour are not helping by thinking that they can play by Farage's rules and do any better than the Tories did. Especially perplexing when you consider that their own polling shows just how badly this strategy is working. But as I keep saying, unlike the Tories, Labour are in power, and so they have the ability to switch the focus to positive policies anytime. The Tories are trapped in opposition. What Labour need to do is make sure that Reform's success comes at a cost to the Tories, not themselves. I had not thought the danger for Britain had passed just because Labour won the election last year, but I did imagine a little period of calm before the next danger. Oh well. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and for more content you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.